Have you guys ever wondered how to get into PC gaming? I'm Rare6, and today we're going to talk about 3 ways you can and the one that's most suitable for most people. Before we start, make sure to hit that subscribe button, including the bell icon down below. The 3 approaches you can make are 1. Expensive, 2. I just wasted my money, and 3. The journey. I'll explain what I mean by the journey in a moment, but first we're going to talk about the expensive approach considering it's the easiest to explain. Assuming money isn't an issue and you could care less about the hardware and specs, this will be the best option for you. If you're looking to play 4K, 60Hz, or even 144, expect to be paying roughly $2,000 to $3,000 for a PC. To most of us, that's a lot of money, but if you want to play the latest and greatest games at the highest resolution with all ultra settings, prepare to open up that wallet. The one true plus to this is that you really shouldn't have to upgrade your PC in about the next 5 to 7 years. The next approach is the I just wasted my money. Personally, I've done this at least once, and it really does frustrate you when it happens. This occurs when you don't have an end goal and more so just buy some stock Dell PC that's titled gaming for a budget between $600 to $800 for the time being. While this option isn't nearly as bad as it sounds on the surface, when you become more knowledgeable about hardware and specs of a PC and you want to upgrade your CPU, for example, you just might be bottlenecked by your motherboard, which in return means you can't make any further upgrades due to the limitations of the motherboard itself. This means you're more than likely going to have to start over from scratch, which is the result of a waste of time and money. This may not be strictly restricted to Dell gaming PCs, but always make sure you look up the CPU and GPU compatibility of the motherboard before making any final decisions. Now for the meat and potatoes of this video. The journey of PC gaming is when you turn a toaster into a god-tier PC master race death machine. Seriously though, the journey is probably the best feeling overall besides the performance increase and the overall enjoyability of playing games. Typically, this option of entry gaming is most suitable for most people, considering you're not really breaking the bank from day one. But with some research and curiosity, you're not only upgrading your PC over time, but you also learn the ins and outs of certain hardware and understand the functionality of the components. Whether you play strictly competitive esports titles or single-player driven games, or even a combination of both, you should have an end goal that you're trying to reach. Speaking of end goals, let's talk a little bit about what that end goal might be. Does 2K resolution intrigue you? Or are you trying to eventually game at 4K with an enjoyable experience? Perhaps you're like me and have done some research to find out that you want a PC that can utilize 2K 144Hz for esports titles, but don't really need that 4K experience anytime soon, considering 2K 144Hz seems to be the sweet spot for future gaming. Another thing you should think of is, what is it that you're mainly going to do? Do you just game? Do you plan on streaming and creating YouTube content from time to time? These things should seriously be considered before dumping any money into anything, because you simply don't want a beast of a PC if most of its power is just going to sit there and go to waste. Next thing we need to look at is our budget. For most people, their budget should land between $500 to $800. Anything past this and you're already sitting pretty comfortably at 1080p to 2K gaming. For example, let's throw a quick PC together that can handle a lot of games at medium to high settings in 1080p. Let's say our goal is 2K, 144Hz, and to start we have roughly $600 to $700 to spend. Some people build around their CPU, which I agree is a good start, but I prefer building around the motherboard considering there's more to factor in. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to ignore these details for now. Let's say we grab a medium tier AMD CPU motherboard for $120. Then we grab an RX 580 8GB for $180 and a Ryzen 5 2600X for $140. We grab a 1TB HDD for $60 for our games and 250GB SSD for $50 for our operating system and maybe one game. We don't care for a Wi-Fi adapter considering we're going to be using Ethernet. Next, we need a power supply unit, and we could pick up one for $70. Now we can grab an 8GB dual channel RAM for $40, and lastly we pick up a case for $60. That's a total of $720, which is a little higher than our budget, but of course if we need to, we can always go back and make some changes before purchasing anything. Also, take into consideration, prices may vary depending on which country you live in. Last thing you will need to take into consideration is, do you need to buy Windows 10, which can cost $150, or you can just transfer your current Windows from your current PC, assuming you already have one already, to your new PC, which in the end will save you some money. Now, I will say it can get a little expensive if you have to pay someone to build your PC, and usually this is the best route to take. If you're not comfortable doing it yourself, then I would recommend Micro Center to do it, also assuming there's one by you. If watching a few build at your own PC videos doesn't bother you, then I highly suggest this method. Now we have our first PC built and running. This is when you can plan for simple upgrades in the future. 8 gig of RAM isn't bad, but with how fast games are being updated, 8 gigs is starting to become more of a thing in the past, and it really wouldn't hurt to upgrade to 16 gigs in the future. Seriously, anyone who argues that either plays RuneScape with it being on their only tab open on Google, or just has never experienced it themselves. For $100, I think it's safe to say it's a smart investment. Next, if you wanted, you could upgrade to a 1TB SSD, and after that I'd say save up for the next 6 months to a year for a top-of-the-line CPU and GPU. Of course, with a new power supply with more watts, because I doubt you want to fry your machine. Just like that, you went from a budget potato to a killing machine. When someone asks how much your PC costs, and you say $1,700, you can watch their jaw drop before explaining the journey it took to get there. Considering this is my first video covering this type of topic and you enjoyed it, hit that like button down below, and doing so would seriously mean a lot to me. By the way, this video did take some time to make, so any comments down below regarding how to improve would be much appreciated. And before you know it, you'll never look at consoles ever again. Wait, well, I might just cover that in a future video. Anyways, I'm Rare6, and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy.